Old paintbrushes. Got lots of them. The cheapy pound shop ones where you get like 5 in a packet. The smaller ones are probably better, but they're great swap brushes, and when they get, you know, a bit like Ken Dodd, it's time to throw them away. But yeah, very handy. So I've roughed it out, 25mm slot, 6.8 deep. I got a little bit of a groove in the bottom there. I may have gone to 7mm deep with that groove, but we'll sort that and talk about that in a minute. Anyway, my block is 59.8 long, and I've worked out that the slot I need, the square slot, needs to be 27mm, nice round figure. So if I take 27 from 59.8, that gives me 32.8. 32.8 divided by 2 will give me 16.4. So if I machine this until the dimension from the bottom to there is 16.4, and then machine the top until I got my 27, I know I'm pretty much central about. So I'll get on with that. 16.4 for the bottom. So I've finished the square machining on the inside. 27mm in the slot, 6.9 deep now, 16.4 to the step, 16.4 to the step, or within a couple of thou, 0.05, something like that. I put my cut on using the clock on the top of the slide, so for every thou I moved it up, the clock moves a thou, I know what cut I'm putting on. Simple as really. Next up, put up the dovetail cutter and we'll look at cutting some dovetails. So I've set up the dovetail cutter now, blackened up these two faces. I'm going to take a scratch off the top and bottom face, both at the same setting on the DRO without moving the carriage at all. I got the carriage all locked up, just to guarantee that this plane of these two flat faces is going to be in exactly the same plane when I cut the rebate. So I'll do that now, take a scratch off the top. I'm taking it very gently with this. As I've said before, it's the only dovetail cutter I've got. And I'm basically taking next to nothing off here. I think about 3 thou, not even 0.1. So I'll just do a pass across this one. Probably have gone a little bit less. It's throwing up a burr there, as you can see, pushing it away in front of the cutter. It's not really designed for cutting, for facing on the bottom. It will face on the bottom, but the radius on the apex of the dovetail cutter is just throwing up a little burr. Okay, it's not too bad. I get a feeling there may be a slight taper in that face because it's cutting much less on this side. Okay, let's take a look at that. So I'm facing off or flattening off the 7mm step. This is the final cut at 7mm with a dovetail cutter, and I'm down into pretty much the bottom corner. So this is just going to do the bottom face to 7mm step, and again I'm just touching off in the bottom corner before I start actually cutting the dovetail. So I'll pass across here. I think it was about 2-3 thou, something like that, the final cut. Okay, so that's the bottom face. Back across, then I'll start raising it up, probably 0.1 at a time, something like that, just gently. I'll do that now, off with that cut, up about 0.1, and start cutting with the corner of the dovetail cutter into that bottom face. I got a bit of cutting oil on this. Conventional milling with that bottom face, the bottom corners. I don't want to go climb milling with this. Back across face. And I'll carry on, probably 0.1 mil at a time, bring you back when I'm somewhere near. Getting to about halfway now. Maybe a bit beyond. Started off with about 10 thou cuts in every pass. Now that it's cutting on a wider face, I've dropped down to about 5 thou cuts per pass. So I'm going to keep cutting down into here until I leave about half a mil on the top face. I'll parallel it and machine. Now the 27 that I put in earlier, I measured directly with the calipers at the root of the dovetail on the block, on the actual tool block itself. So I know that the actual root is going to be slightly smaller than that, because obviously the calipers won't measure right down into the bottom, and I'm guessing about half a mil smaller. So I'm going to leave about half to 3/4 of a mil a flat on the top of this face, and then do exactly the same on the other, and then start trial fitting it. So another 5 thou cut and away to go again. I'll bring you back when I'm somewhere near. So I machined the bottom face with a dovetail cutter to leave, to all intents and purposes, a 1 mil flat on the top where I machined it 27. So I've just machined the top face, the dovetail, progressively moving the milling head down until I got exactly the same visually, eyeball, you know, with a rule, amount of flat. So my next step, so I know that dovetail is central about in the block. My next step would be to just have a little look with the block. I could just sit it in the bottom there. Take my magnifying glass. Just have a little look at how much we've got left to come out. I'd say, at a guess, educated guess maybe, or uneducated, about 0.2 of a millimetre. So what I'm going to do is take another 0.1 off this face, which is the one I can't see very easily, just to reduce that flat slightly, and then come back down and scratch away at the bottom surface until I get that block fitting. Now, I don't want a stupidly tight fit on the block, because you don't want to have to sort of fiddle with it to get the tool holder on the tool post all the time. I do want a little bit of clearance. So I'm going to take 0.1 off this face, maybe 5 thou, something like that, maybe 5-6 thou off this face, top face of this dovetail, and then complete it by finishing on the bottom one. Okay, so that's a 5 thou cut. Take the backlash out, otherwise it'll pull down. Bit of glue in my cutter, wind across with a 5 thou with that 5 thou cut. Theory, this is a finishing cut on this face. Doing about 380 RPM. Taking it nice and slow, got a bit of glue on the cutter. I run this right through, and I run it back across as well. You always seem to get a slightly better finish on the climb mill if you run back across. So I shall also do that. Back across the other way. Okay. Well, I've been creeping up on it on the sides, tiny bit at a time, couple of thou, you know, when it started to get near, and now it just enters the dovetail. Now that's just way too tight. So what that's left me with is like a 1/4 mil flat on the bottom there, and I've still got, yeah, probably 3/4 mil flat on the top. So what I'm going to do is come back up from the bottom now to the top and just gradually scratch away on the top until a point where I can probably get like a 0.2 feeler gauge in the back of the block if I pull it out. Yeah, I mean, what I want to do is loosen off the taper so that I can pull the block fits, obviously, pull it away and get maybe 0.2 of a mil in the gap. So that's my next target. Scratch away on the top face until I can get the block in, all the way in to start with, and then keep going until I can get about 0.2 of a mil feeler in the back, and that should be the right size. So a big step forward has been taken. 1/8 thou feeler gauge, 1/10 thou feeler gauge. If I pull forward, 1/8 thou fits down the back, 1/10 thou doesn't. If I come on the other dovetail, 1/8 thou fits down the back, 1/10 thou doesn't. So there's not a lot wrong with the accuracy across the two dovetails, and that one fits just where I want to do on the looseness front. So I can take it off, drop it back on like a normal tool holder, and the same that side. I might put a couple of little lead-ins on the lower chamfer and again on the top of the block just to make it simple. So now I've got to set up the length of the piston so the handle lock's in the right place, so we move on to that. So I couldn't wait. I've fitted the tool post back up. Now then, let's show you the front position. When I got the tool in the front, that's locked. I wanted it to be a little bit further round, maybe another 10 degrees round. If it's the same case with that, basically I can shorten that pin by a couple of thou. I'll do like, I don't know, scratch 2 thou off it, something like that, and see what difference it makes, and then I'll have an idea of how much it's got to come off. And much the same, I'm going to put it on the front one. I want it to come more square. So yeah, it's equal about, so whatever's got to come off the one is going to be pretty much the same as the other one. So I'll scratch a couple of thou off this front one, put it up in a 3-jaw, just scratch a couple of thou off, put it back in, see what difference it makes, and then make a decision how much to take off from there, because I want the lock to be at 90 degrees to the block. So when it's locked, 90 degrees to the block there, 90 degrees to the block there. So I've got a little play with the length of the pins. Put tool post on. Right then. unlocked, front face, locked. Perfect. Exactly where I want it to be. Front face, locked. Purely by adjusting the pin length. Could have left a thou or so on that one. Okay, happy days.